I'm using my number 8 brush. Got to get it clean, make sure there's nothing, no paint from a previous project in there, because I want the faintest of this Quinn Rose. I'll get some clean water, a little more, and I'll get into my Quinn Rose, bring it out there. Okay, that's pretty rich still. But we're going to put a wash of just clear water on our petal. Let me switch back over so we can see that. That's a better view. And so I'm just going to find my petal here, and I'm going to just put a layer of clear or clean water on it for my first layer, and then for the color, I'm just going to put the faintest of colors because I can always add to it. I also want to only do one petal because I don't want to have any edges dry. I want to paint this one petal all in one go and not have any drying lines other than the actual edges. And go ahead and turn yours around just whatever it takes to go up to that edge. And you know, when we paint wet on wet, we're actually defining the edge. In other words, wherever this water goes, that's where our paint will go when we drop it in. So take care, as if you're painting with color. And it looks like I might actually have just a little bit of color in this paint too. Okay, I'll make sure that that's wet, but not so wet that it puddles. So I look for a little shine, but not consistent across the top. And if I have too much, I can always go back with a dry brush, which is what I'm going to do now. I'm just going to go with a dry brush, and any place I see a shine that's smooth across the top, I'll try to take it off. Tilt my work so I can see it. It looks like I missed a spot along that edge. Alright. Okay, so I'm ready to drop some paint in. I go back. Let me get that shared picture in place. I think I know how to do that. And that's the one I want, so I'll get a little bit of this pink and make sure my brush has the same consistency. And I do want it to be a little wet because I'm not going to brush stroke this. I'm going to just drop some in. And if I look at my picture, I've got some rich color there and there, basically on each side of the center, but and maybe it's equal all the way to the outside, but because of the shine of it, it looks lighter. Let's see if we can do that. So I'm just going to drop some color, and you know what? There's not enough water on there. Well, let's change that, because that was supposed to surge. Well, we have two goals in mind. One is don't get our papers too wet too long so it buckles or the grounding comes up, and then we don't want it too dry that when we go to add paint, nothing happens. There we go. So I'm watching my picture as I do this, trying to see just how much of this paint is there, and it looks like it kind of ends down here. And I'm counting on it kind of filling in right to the edge of what I filled in with water. And then on the other side, not quite, looks like right through here, there's a little more pigment. Let's drop a little more in. It's not all the way to the top, but there seems to be more right in here. And then as this petal curves away, just little bits in here. That doesn't go too far, so we'll bring a little bit more to the center, and a little bit richer on this outside edge. Okay. Now I think that's turning out okay, but when I watched the tutorial for this exercise, I also know that if I take my brush, make it very clean and dry, I can kind of pull my brush up through the middle and pull away any excess extra. Of course, you have to rinse it too. Getting the paint up in your brush doesn't help. So what I'm after is to create a kind of a lighter colored area actually going up through these spaces where I know that bloom is reaching out from wherever I made it saturated, where I dropped it in. Rinse really well, dry it off, and go again. So what I'm looking for is that, there we go, that white kind of look where it looks like it is pushing up. And try not to pick up the pink paint and then put it back down, which is what I'm tending to do now. And I don't think it goes all the way to the top. Let me pick up my sample. No, it doesn't. It kind of has a vein up through here, and then some more as this kind of matches. So I'm not really dry brushing, but I'm adding a little in. All right, and then this part over here, let's do that. Rinse the brush well and pull it up. Rinse it again. So also by doing this, if we make it kind of streaky, that's starting to work like it's supposed to, then it also lets us see where the shine of the reflection might be. Now we're going to go back and do a little dry brushing on this later, but not yet. Okay, I think we can let that dry. If we do any much or very much more, at least on this one, it's not going to look very pretty. I'm also getting, where the paint is drying on the outside edge, that is getting a little bit of a line to it. And in some places that's okay, but in others it's not. I'm actually going to leave that because I'm afraid to fix it would mess things up. So this petal on the other side, the far side, I'm going to do that one next. And I'll lay in some water, just put a kind of a clear glaze over it, taking care to make my line straight up to where the edge is. And if I go over the line, that's fine as long as the petal I'm painting looks good. Okay, so I think we'll pull it in from here out. So I'm using the tip. Of course, the tip has the most control. The back side of the brush has the least. And that one looks better laid in than the first. I think I'm ready to go get some color. Now on my sample, I see that this is really dark, but not on the edge. So we need to go close to the edge, but not on it. So we'll get some nice rich color. You just see me sneak into that little bit of pyrrole, just because I think I see it in there. Okay, so take some of that. See what we can get to lay in. I'm just touching it. I'm not going to do a brush stroke here. So I'm kind of going right along this edge. And I think I should have stopped earlier. Alright. Okay, that's where that's at. And first part is drawing. Let's do the this little tip that's sticking up on this side. Since this brush that I'm currently using is pink, I'm going to get some clean water on my number 6 and put that in with the number 6. I'm taking care not to touch the other petal, because that's where the water is, and two things that are wet get close to each other, one will surge to the other. Okay, so I'm going to pick up just a little pyrrole and some Queen Rose mostly, and this is a little richer. I'll get some water because I don't have any. Okay, I think that'll work. Let's try that. We'll go and put that. And our purpose isn't to copy the sample. Our purpose is to learn from our sample. Okay, so I think this goes down, and these just kind of come in. And that goes down a ways. I didn't prep it to go down a ways, but the sample picture looks like it does. So I'll set that. Now I'm going to rinse my brush back to my number 8. Rinse it good. And I actually have an extra jar here with cleaner water. Dry my brush, and I'll go back on this outside, looking at my sample and see. Looks like there's just a little bit of a line here. And when we do this, we're also softening. So if I don't take up the paint as I go, then I'm actually softening these lines between the pink, the center, and the outside edge. And bring this up. And it goes, it's like a little rich right there. Going to soften that, pull that. So as I'm softening his edges, I'm also going in the direction that I believe the pattern or the texture of the flower petal goes. And if I get some slightly streaked lines there, I think I like that idea. And now it is a bit darker right in this space. And as I look at my video, the angle of my screen to see what I'm recording doesn't show how dark this actually is. I'm hoping that you can actually see that, because that would be misleading if it didn't. Okay, so I'm going to put a light pink into the rest of this petal where it is lighter pink. Bring that down. Of course, when it's down, there's just a little bit of, not orange, but, well, just a little bit. Maybe a little new gamboge, just, because there certainly is on the bottom. Okay, so let's bring that. That's too rich. Get some water. And by rich, I mean rich in color. And this is pretty well dried now. So we're not ready to do dry brushing, although that's what I've just started. We're going to save that for pretty soon. Okay. Now the sample that you have, the sample image, that actually printed darker than, at least for the bloom, than we could have wanted, which is okay. Mine is going to be a little lighter. I'll fill in some of the yellowish to match, which is what I just started down here. But that's going to be in a little bit. Okay, I think we're ready to go back to our first petal. So what we've done is, with exception of the center petal, we've put a water glaze in, we've dropped some color in, we've used a dry, it was wet on wet, then we cleaned and dried our brush to do some paint removal to try to get these lighter streaks going up. We have some texture going on, and now we're going to look at, that's going to need to be fixed. Now we're going to look at putting in the center and adding some more contrast.